What is going on, guys? Andrew Hayes here, back with another video. This is a big video because this is the top 10 movies of 2018, but I am not alone. I have my great friend Mike Hanley here to join me. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me on here. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
no,
fun.
Mike reached out to me, says, hey, let's do this video together. And I was like, absolutely. And it's going to be a fun time. So, like I mentioned, we are doing our top 10 movies of 2018. This is going to be I would say, a pretty long video. But how it's going to work is we're just going to go from 10 to 1, alternating. So I guess I'll go first. So I'll do my 10. He'll do his 10, 9, 9. We'll just go back and forth until we're done. But if we do have the same number, so if we have the same number 10, for example, we will both be talking about it. But if I have my number 10 and he has that movie that I just talked about at 10, at number 9, he'll wait. So that's just how it's going to go, just for people who are wondering. Anyway, I guess we can get right started.
Perfect.
We'll start with honorable mentions. I do have a few. Do you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I have a few of them.
Okay, so I'll start first. I have 5 honorable mentions on us. 5 honorable mentions. That would be Roma, Blind Spotting, Sorry to Bother You, Boy Erased, and Mid-90s. Those are my 5 honorable mentions.
Those are good ones. I like those.
Yeah.
I had Bandersnatch for sure. Bandersnatch almost made it, but it just didn't quite work out. I have Halloween, which I really loved, but again, with the watches later on in the year, kind of pushed it out of the top 10 for me. And I have, was that the only two? Yeah, that actually were the only 2 ones that were really going to make the list for me.
All right, awesome. So I'll get right into my number 10. My number 10 is BlacKkKlansman. This is actually the only, as of now, the only Spike Lee movie I have seen, and I think it's a great movie. When I was, the trailers came out, and I was immediately excited because it just looked like a great movie, and it somehow still exceeded my expectations. You have a breakout performance by John David Washington, who should get some Oscar consideration. You also have probably his best performance to date in Adam Driver, who also should get some Oscar consideration. Just the screenplay is one of the best of the year. It's has very tense moments, but funny. It has all these. It's brilliantly written. Like, there's this one scene in particular that involves a lie detector test that is funny, but as it goes on, it just gets kind of scary in a way, because you really don't know what's going to happen. And I think it's brilliantly directed and written by Spike Lee. Easily one of the best of the year for me. My number 10 is BlacKkKlansman.
And to jump off right there, Topher Grace, I thought was funny.
Yeah, Topher Grace as well is also really good.
For my number 10, I have a movie that snuck in there with a rewatch just recently. I have Overlord.
Okay. I missed out on that one, so I haven't seen it yet. So
if you've watched the trailers, it's exactly what you're looking at in the trailers. It's a wild ride. It's them jumping into Nazi Germany to take out a radio tower, and they stumble upon medical experiments that are turning shit crazy. And one thing I love about this movie is the fact that it has what's the word for it? Its connotations towards Kurt Russell in the 80s. Because it is his son, Wyatt Russell. It is his son. And watching it, all I kept thinking of is that is Kurt Russell's son for sure. This looks like a Thing type movie to where he brings the same charm, the same acting ability as his father did back in the 80s, and it works perfectly with this movie. There's some great action scenes showing especially Germany at night during the when they are trying to fly in. The cinematography is great during those scenes, and there's some creepy parts, there's some funny parts, little comedic timings in there, and Wyatt Russell just overtakes this movie. He's not even the actual star of the movie, but for me, he runs this movie for sure, and everything he does in it is great. The story I really loved. I love World War II stories, so this one, right when I saw the trailer, I went, yeah, I definitely got to check this out, and it didn't disappoint me at all. The stuff with the zombies, if you want to call them that, are really interesting take of how they did it and how they use the Nazi experiments to turn them into it and what happens when they do. They have some great tense moments of them in houses when they think that German officers are going to come in and what they do to try to subdue them and try to get away from them. Overall, if you haven't seen it, definitely check out Overlord. That is my number 10.
You know, the only thing, I mean, I saw the trailer a bunch of times in the theaters, and I thought the trailer was pretty good because of a certain song. But what I also remember about that movie is that everyone was saying, "Oh, is this a Cloverfield movie?" They kept on talking about whether it was a Cloverfield movie or not. And speaking of Cloverfield or movies that were rumored to be a Cloverfield movie, my number 9 is A Quiet Place. This is easily my favorite horror movie of the year. I actually just rewatched it, and it still holds up very, very well. I don't know how long it is until they actually start talking, but there's a good, like, I would say, like, at least the first third, there's no talking at all, and I feel like it would be so easy to get bored by that or to make that just not interesting. But John Krasinski somehow makes it interesting. I was, especially in the non-speaking parts, and there's very little speaking in this movie. I was very captivated and invested into the story, and I just wanted this family to be okay and just wanted them to somehow get away from these monsters and to see what they do, how they deal with it. And there's a tragedy that happens in the beginning in the movie to the family involving the monsters, and you know, just it really puts another layer on the relationship between John Krasinski and the daughter, who the daughter is phenomenal, and she's actually deaf in real life, I believe. So that impresses me even more that she was able to do all of this and give such a captivating performance and be deaf. But Emily Blunt, the one scene that she is in, where she has to give birth. That is one of the most chilling, and I don't want to say it's not hard to watch, but it's just like, I don't even know the words, but it's just it was kind of tough to watch, but for like all the right reasons, it was tough to watch because so much is going. Yeah, it was tense. It was a very tense scene because so much is going on at once, and at the same time, like, she can't make a noise or else these monsters are gonna come and get her. And I think, but for me, the standout here is John Krasinski, not only in his performance but his directing. I think he does both brilliantly, and I think he is being overlooked for both immensely. His performance was so like nuanced and subtle that I just loved every second, and every little thing that he does, it means something. And the directing too was fantastic. This is easily my favorite horror movie of the year. Like I said, my number 9 is A Quiet Place.
And going on to my number 9 is the Netflix movie Bird Box.
Oh, Bird Box.
This was, when I first heard about it, was from my friend who had watched it the exact day it came out on Netflix, which was the last Friday or the Friday before. I think it was the Friday before. And it seemed like an interesting concept, but at the same time, it seemed like it was going to be like The Happening. And as we all know, The Happening is not really a good movie. So I had my doubts with this, but watching it, I fell in love with the movie quick. Sandra Bullock is amazing in this role where she has to cover her eyes at all times. Everyone in the movie has to cover their eyes. Otherwise, this unseen monster force, they never explain what it is, will overtake you and it'll make you commit suicide and take other people with you. And the thing I loved most about this were the performances by also John Malkovich, which was crazy to see John Malkovich in this movie. I was not expecting him to show up in this type of movie. And B.D. Wong, who has kind of gotten a resurgence with the Jurassic World movies. I thought he had a fun half hour in the movie. He doesn't really, he doesn't have a lot to do in the movie, but when he's on screen, it really shows. One of my standout parts of this movie is when they go to the supermarket to try to get food and stuff, because they have an employee there with them that can get them in. And I love the little tense scene of someone trying to come through the back, and someone has to make a sacrifice to help the others. And it's just such a tense scene because you finally get a glimpse of what is kind of going on, of why they're trying to get other people to show their eyes to the sky and see what's out there. And I love the timeline aspect where it cuts back from them at the past to her at the present with her 2 kids and her on the boat. And there's a tense part on the boat where a guy's calling out and he's saying everything's okay. And he's telling her, you can take off your blindfold. And you just go, as an audience, you're just going, don't do it. Don't trust it. It's just, Sandra Bullock, this is one of her best performances. I love it to death. And when people started comparing, what was the other movie that compared it to? It wasn't Just a Happening. It was what's that other disaster movie that they're comparing it to that I went, it has nothing to do with it. Oh, they were trying to compare it to A Quiet Place as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I went, it has nothing to do with it. It's not the same type of deal. The only thing I can say is that there's monsters, but A, they're unseen, and B, you don't even know what they look like. You don't know exactly what it is, if it's actual monsters or if it's just something in the air trying to get them. And I love
it could be the same monsters for all we know from A
exactly,
Quiet Place.
But they never say it. So comparing it to Happening, I for sure can see, because it's the same kind of concept, which is unknown forces that are overtaking your mind and making you commit suicide. But yeah, if you haven't seen Bird Box, definitely check it out.
All right, my number 8 is my pick for best animated movie of the year, and that is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This honestly, I was very excited for this movie, but if you had told me that this was going to be my favorite, not only my favorite animated movie of the year, but probably one of the best Spider-Man movies I have ever seen, I would be like, you're nuts, because I honestly, I thought Incredibles 2 would be my favorite, and as good as Incredible 2 was, and this is a great year for animation, might I add, but this is the one that stood out the most. This is the one that resonated with me the most. The animation style is absolutely is awesome. It kind of reminds me of the animation style of a Telltale game, and I love the animation style for those, and I love the animation style for this. I love that because I didn't know much about the Miles Morales character. I just knew that it was just another Spider-Man, and that's pretty much all I knew, and I felt like I learned a lot, and I am now a big fan of the character because I thought the character was awesome, and to get to see, Peter Parker and Spider-Gwen and Spider-Ham and Nick Cage was in this movie. It was just everything I really wanted in animated superhero movie is what I got in this movie. It is just beautiful animation, great voice acting, great characters, like I said, and I really hope this wins Best Animated Movie at the Oscars because it definitely deserves it.
Now, I haven't seen it yet, but it does have a voice by Nicolas Cage, right? He plays one of the Spider-Man?
Yeah, he plays Noir Spider-Man.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I kind of figured. So that goes to my number 8. One guy who I did not think would make a top 10 list for years because he kind of struggled with doing more B-style movies that just weren't up to par, but this one hooked me in and sank me in. My number 8 is Mandy.
All right. I wasn't too big of a fan of that movie, but
yeah, I remember talking with you about it, and the thing that drove me to it is I love the way that he is his performance is contained for like half of the movie, to where he's not being the Nicolas Cage as people have come to know him as, that wild, all-out, crazy Nicolas Cage. He's more subdued. And then after the tragedy that befalls his girlfriend, you bring out Cage. You bring him out in a big way. One of the standout scenes here is a chainsaw fight that he has with one of the guys, and it's just so brutal and so crazy. I love the cinematography of this movie, especially the way they did, even the color palettes mixed with cinematography worked for me for this. It's like a psychedelic trip in the best way possible. And they have a one shot, which I think is shown in the trailers, of Cage in his car, and he has like this wide-eyed look. His mouth is open and he's smiling, and he's just like this kind of manic smile. I just love that shot. And the gang, the hippie, insane biker gang that attacks him and others, is done so well. It's just so insane. It's like an insane train ride gone wrong. It's just insane scene after insane scene for half the movie. But the first part is a great love story between him and his girlfriend, and it just shows how much he cares about her and how much he cares about him. And the scenes with them are so great, and they don't do it in the conventional way. They use her use of drugs to him to kind of sprout it out with her, like little poems that she has, and the atmosphere around them changes as the movie progresses. And I just loved every minute of this. This was the Cage of the 90s that I fell in love with, and he was back in this movie for sure. That is my number 8.
Yeah, no, definitely wasn't a fan of that one, but I know a lot of people are, so I'm definitely in the minority for that. But going on to my number 7 is 8th Grade. This is a directorial debut by Bo Burnham. And I was very interested in the movie because of that, because I'm not like a huge fan of Bo Burnham, but like I have seen some of his videos from the comedy shows that he's done online, and I think he's a pretty funny guy. And so I was interested to see what he would do, especially in a coming of age movie, and I was very, very impressed. I was blown away by this movie. This is definitely very relatable for me. I don't know about how relatable it is for you.
Yeah, it was pretty relatable.
It definitely was. I know a lot of people probably can relate to this. Elsie Fisher, who gives a breakthrough performance, is fantastic in this. And Josh Hamilton, who is great in this. But I think what really makes this work is the screenplay. I think the screenplay is brilliantly written. And just everything that like kind of happens in this movie, I felt like that's how middle schoolers act. That's how 8th graders act. That's definitely how they kind of acted when I was in 8th grade. But it definitely was relatable, and I definitely could have seen myself in Kayla's shoes as just kind of the weirdo outsider who really has no confidence in themselves. I could definitely see myself in that role. Definitely one of the best, not only coming of age movies in quite some time, but one of the best comedies of the year. Definitely one. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. Definitely, I really hope that it gets at least a screenplay nomination is what I think it will get. But it is nominated for some Golden Globes, so we will see how that works out. But my number 7 is 8th Grade.
And I will say with that is that even though it didn't make my top 10, I still do look at her relationship with her father as one of the best on-screen relationships. It's so funny, but so realistic.
Yeah, that's what I love about 8th Grade, is that how realistic it is. I could totally see just this being a real situation, and every relationship, every character felt real, and that's what I love about the movie.
And going on to my number 7 is another horror movie, Hereditary.
All right.
This is a movie, when I first saw it in the theater, I loved everything but the last 20 minutes. the moment they made that choice to go, we're going to go full-blown supernatural with you, I didn't really care for it at first when I first watched it, because I love the way that they were going about it, to where you didn't know for sure if Toni Collette was going crazy or not, and you didn't know what exactly was going on. And I love that. I would have loved them to keep it at the time as just that little family dynamic, but then they made that choice. Now, when I rewatched it, I've rewatched it twice now. The second time I rewatched it, it got better for me. That ending didn't bother me as much. The third time, I was in it. I went, yeah, let's go. This is what the movie does. And it has very tense scenes. And it reminded me a lot of how The Witch was, tonal-wise, and the way they did the horror aspects. Toni Collette is brilliant in this. I can't think of the little girl's name, but she is just incredible as this creepy, awkward little child that makes these clicking noises with her mouth and just is kind of weird, but she fits in with the movie. And Alex Wolff as his son, there is a scene in there where something happens to the daughter and just fucks him up royally. And it's just such a disturbing scene. And the way they filmed it was perfect, I think, because they didn't show exactly what happened there. You just see it for a second, and then it just continues on, and you never turn back the camera to the back of the car to see what's going on. And I love that they never actually fully went in to go, we're going to show you exactly what happened. We're just going to give it to you piece by piece instead. And the performances by the entire family are great. I love how Toni Collette slowly starting to lose her mind in this movie, and Gabriel Byrne just doesn't know what to do. He's trying to keep the family together, and he can't really. He's trying to help the relationship between his son and Toni Collette, and it just isn't working. And I love the small turn of having others come into the picture and try to mess with Toni Collette's mind a little bit, saying that given the aspects of your daughter, I have a way for you to talk to your daughter. I have this, and as an audience, you're going, is this real, or are they just fucking with her? And it's just a slow burn of a movie, but it works for this type of movie. And a lot of people love this movie, but then others really hated it. And I can understand why they hated this type of movie. It's the same thing with The Witch. It's that type of tonal horror that doesn't really get done a lot and doesn't work with a lot of people. A lot of people just love the in-your-face horror. And that's what I think the last 20 minutes Hereditary is that in-your-face horror, that one that you know is usually with the rest of these newer horror movies like The Conjuring, where when it happens, it's all action horror in a way. And that's what the last 20 minutes kind of is action-y horror where they're being chased and it's right up in your face. There's jump scares, stuff like that. And it does work for the end of this movie for sure. And it definitely made me slowly fall in love with this movie. It took a few times, but I eventually fell in love with it. And that is my number 7, Hereditary.
All right. Definitely a movie that I very much enjoyed, but just missed out on my list. But my number 6 is Mission Impossible Fallout.
That is my number 6.
All right, awesome. All right, so let's talk about it. Now, this is a movie where, or a franchise, I should say, where, other than the second one, it seems like each movie gets better and better.
For sure. The stunts get wilder.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. I think what I like about this one in particular is that it's a continuation of the fifth one. It's kind of feels like a direct sequel to the fifth one.
Yeah, I look at it as 4th, 5th, and 6th are kind of like back to back to back. Even though the 5th story doesn't really follow the 4th story, it does bring back aspects of that into the next one.
Yeah, so while each, the 3rd one is good, and the 4th one is great, but this one is the only one that really is follows the story of the 5th one.
100%.
You got the main bad guy back from the 5th one, and I think that I loved what they did with that storyline, how it expanded upon the 5th one, and just it's everything that I wanted in the Mission Impossible movie. Great action, at times great humor, great emotional scenes, great performances, and Henry Cavill proves that given the right material, he can be great. And one thing that always sticks out in my mind when I watch this movie is that I remember when it came out, is that, Mission Impossible Fallout was worth all the Justice League troubles that, Mission Impossible gave it because, the mustache, but we're not here to talk about that. But
what I love is that Henry, that the big stunt, there's always that big stunt in the Mission Impossible movie, especially the last three, that gets people talking, and it's that freeform jump that they do. But what I think that overtook it with this movie, which is incredible, is Henry Cavill reloading his arms before going into a fight.
Oh yeah, that was incredible. That was intense.
I saw an interview with Tom Cruise where that's all he wanted to talk about was the arm reloading of Henry Cavill. He thought it was the funniest. It's the most hysterical thing on the planet.
And that bathroom fight scene. Yeah, and that bathroom fight scene is probably one of the best fight scenes of the year. Probably is the best fight scene of the year. One of the best action scenes that I can remember. But yeah, Tom Cruise. I feel like it would be easy to just get tired of this character. He has been playing it for over 20 years now.
Yeah.
The same character, but like he never gets like monotonous or like it never like it. He always manages to give a great performance in these movies. And same with Simon Pegg, who's been in it since I believe the third one.
Yeah, he's been in him and Ving Rhames. Ving Rhames is the one that's been there from the beginning, but kind of got lost track in the fourth one, I believe, and then he was barely in the fifth one. He was in it for like 5 seconds. But him and Simon Pegg have been in there just constantly.
Yeah, and even Alec Baldwin, who's been in it for a little bit now, is great. And but they all like they've been playing the same characters for a while now, so I feel like it would be easy to get just tired of the performances, or for them to like. It can't get better, but they managed to get better with each movie, which I find to be amazing. And the script is awesome, and just the action scenes are tense. They're awesome. They're especially like I said, the bathroom fight scene and the helicopter scene when they're on the cliff.
Yeah, the helicopter
that
scene
is
incredible.
One of the most tense scenes of the year, in my opinion. And this is just an awesome movie that is easily one of the most rewatchable.
And I love how they brought back Michelle Monaghan in a very, like, it did it in a great story moment to where you see that she has a new husband. Yes. And they have that interaction, and you can tell this is why Tom Cruise is who Tom Cruise is he gives that look when he's talking to the husband, and you know that he's hurting inside, but he's happy that she's happy.
Yeah, and again, someone that I just remembered, Rebecca Ferguson, who was in the fifth one, was awesome. I think the breakout person in the fifth one, and what I think Henry Cavill is the breakout person in this one. She also gives a great performance, and she does stuff that, and you can see that she really cares about Ethan Hunt, and she does stuff that doesn't really want to like. He has to hurt him, but doesn't want to do it, and I think she does a fantastic job with that. I really can't wait to see what they do next. I really can't. Yeah. It can only go up for here, especially with if Tom Cruise comes back and Simon Pegg and Christopher McQuarrie comes back.
And it's funny when you see that behind the scenes with Tom Cruise getting more control over each movie, it's becoming better. And it's becoming more over the top. And it's harder to top these movies. It's been harder to top these movies, and he's still able to do it. Mm-hmm. And it just shows why Tom Cruise is the action superstar forever, man. This dude has been going at it for years, and he's still as strong as ever. He's had a couple, misses with like The Mummy, but which still made money, even though it wasn't that well received. But then you get this movie, and it just hooks you in. It just shows you why Tom Cruise is who Tom Cruise is.
Yeah, no, he very well is, in my opinion, the greatest action star to ever live. I mean,
100%.
that is up for debate, obviously, but in my opinion, I do believe that it is Tom Cruise. And as long as Tom Cruise is willing to do this, and in the shape, because he ain't getting any younger.
Yeah.
He did actually break his ankle in this
Yep,
one.
with that jump, that insane jump he does.
Yeah, and which is insane. So as long as he's willing to do it and he is in good enough shape to keep on doing this, I don't mind getting more of these movies because, I mean, the first one was good, but definitely not on par with, the others. The second one, is probably easily the worst one. It's not terrible, but it's just not good.
Yeah.
But I think 3 onward is when it gets great.
Oh yeah, 100%. That third one with Philip Seymour Hoffman, just escalated Mission Impossible back to the stratosphere.
Yeah, and without the third one, we wouldn't probably have this one.
Oh yeah, no.
And they managed, and then the fourth one was better than the third one, and I do prefer the fourth one over the fifth one, but like the sixth one, is the best one we have gotten, and it is going to be hard to top this one in my opinion. But still, I can't wait to see what we do next, especially if Tom Cruise comes back and Christopher McQuarrie comes back.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, you have anything else to say about Mission Impossible Fallout?
No, I think we covered all the bases for that.
Okay, then I'll go right into my number 5, which is Searching.
Ooh, okay.
This is a movie that totally surprised me. When I saw the trailer, I was more intrigued by the movie, by the concept of the movie, because it all takes place on a computer screen or footage from somewhere. It's like pretty much, for lack of a better term, a found footage movie, but like a different kind of found footage movie.
Yeah.
Because it's always taken on like a phone or a computer screen or like traffic footage or
the cameras, like, with like the news cameras and stuff.
Yeah, the news cameras, like something like that. So I was more intrigued on the concept of the film, and I feel like this movie, and this is honestly my pick for screenplay of the year. I love the screenplay for this. I think this is very smartly written, and I haven't seen this, in my opinion, this smartly written of a movie since The Gift. Where there are little things that in The Gift, there are little things that kind of foreshadow what is going to happen, that kind of foreshadow what's going to happen, and then they call back to things in the movie, and there really is no stone left unturned in The Gift, and I feel like there's no stone left unturned in the Searching. You have great performances across the board, and what I love, and I believe this is another directorial debut, so it's been a fantastic year for directorial debuts with like I mentioned before, Bo Burnham had a Jonah Hill, I mentioned mid-90s before. Yeah. Directorial debut, great. And it's just been a great year for directorial debuts. And this is no exception. Great performances. But again, like what I love about this movie is the screenplay. And I am invested every second for this movie. And what I love about this movie the most is, like, you think you got to figure it out. You think it's going, one way. You think, you know why the girl disappeared. But then it goes... and it goes this way, and it's like, all right, like, that's what it is. But it goes another direction, and then like twists and turns and like fakes you out so many times, and I feel like that could get tedious. But this is done, I think, brilliantly. This is done very well, and like the kind of everything on the computer screen also could get tiring, but like it was executed very, very well. I loved, and this is one of those movies where it gets better on a rewatch because, again, you notice little things that the director puts in. I know that there is a secret movie within this movie. There's a secret thing going on. I'm not going to say what it is in case anybody wants to find out for themselves. I know what it is, and it was pretty insane finding that out, what that was and whatnot. But this is my favorite screenplay of the year, and one of my favorite movies of the year, as it's my number 5.
And going to my number 5 is a movie that you talked about earlier, A Quiet Place.
Okay,
Now
nice.
going on, yeah, I really loved the hell out of this movie when I first saw it, and we watched it at my house. It just gets better and better every time I watch it. And going off the things you had mentioned, wanted to further talk about the sound design in this movie is incredible. This is one of those movies to where if you aren't invested in these characters and the situation, you're gonna just walk away from it, because there are certain scenes, like you said, where there's no dialogue. There's just a noise of nature going on. And for some people, they can't deal with that. They need dialogue. They need something happening. And there's definitely places in this movie, especially at the beginning, where it's just all silence. But it works for this movie because of the direction. And that's John Krasinski all the way. That direction he has for this is incredible. And Emily Blunt is amazing in this. And I love the whole nail scene, which I won't give away where the nail is, but there's a nail scene that I think happens twice or three times. And it's just such a tense moment with that, of what as an audience watching that scene. And I just love the fact that this is the type of movie that they could have went the route of like the later Purge movies where they show what's going on in the entire world, but no, he follows this one family. And I love that about this, is that they kept it with the one family the entire time. You have people coming in and out, but it is just the one family that they follow. And their relationships together are incredible. They have such great chemistry together, which they're married, so they should.
Oh yeah. I mean, it would be pretty scary if
they didn't have any chemistry on the screen. It would, yeah. But yeah, the whole bathroom scene, the tub scene, which is on the poster, is just amazing. I really love the hell out of this movie. This is one of my favorite horror movies of the year for sure. And that is my number 5.
Yeah, no, definitely my favorite horror movie of the year. And one of your favorites, as it is here, number 5. So going on to my number 4 is another directorial debut, and that is A Star is Born, which is, again, like I said, a directorial debut by Bradley Cooper. And I find it funny that I'm here talking about this movie, because I remember we would talk about this movie, and you'd be like, oh, man, this movie, I'm just not excited. It's just not for me. And which I totally understand. But I go, no, this seems like a type of movie that would be for me, and it just it totally was for me, as it's my number 4. Who knew a couple things? One, who knew Bradley Cooper could sing?
Yeah, that was surprising for sure, that he could actually belt out something like that.
And the second thing is I know Lady Gaga has done some acting, but like, who knew she can act at this level? This is her performance is my favorite performance of the year. And it is just so emotional, and I do believe that she should win the Oscar, obviously, since it's my favorite performance of the year. And I just love the story throughout. It's probably one of, if not the most emotional movies of the year. I love the songs. "Shallow" being my favorite, which I think is probably the front runner to win the Oscar. And then you know, like, I love the relationship and the chemistry between Bradley Cooper's character and Lady Gaga's character. It seems like they, like, again, this seems like I was watching it, and it seemed like this is something that could have been real. And that's what I love about it. It showed, so much emotion was conveyed by both of them. And I've only seen it once, but I can't wait to watch it a second time. My number 4 is A Star is Born.
I will say about that movie that I watched it and I just could not connect, which I talked to you about it. I knew, like, going in, I went, I know this is not the Mike type movie. It's just not. And watching it, I went, I can see why people love it, though. I really can. I can see why it's up for Oscar consideration for sure.
Yeah.
Going to my number 4 is Game Night. Now, this movie,
I love Game Night so much.
Yeah, this is such an amazing movie. And what I love about it is the little movie Easter eggs strewn throughout, kind of like the Pulp Fiction scene where it's Bunny and Pumpkin, and basically reenact that during it's supposed to be a 10th part of the movie, but they're reenacting it, and it's great. I just love everybody in this movie. Jason Bateman is so funny in this. Him getting shot, and the whole time, the little shenanigans that go along with him being shot and him trying to get the bullet out is just great. And Rachel McAdams is so funny as well. And they are perfect together in this movie. They have so many funny scenes. The whole murder mystery party being a fake out for a kidnapping is just hilarious. You have the kidnapping scene later on where they get to his brother, and they kind of explore a little more of what's going on, but as an audience, you don't fully know if this is actually a game or if this is real. And I love how they toe that line throughout this entire movie. Up until the very end, they're towing the line is this a game or is this real? But I think the standout performance for sure is Jesse Plemons.
Oh, easily.
Oh, man, it's just that. Oh, I just love, especially him outside of his house, just staring at them at random times with his little dog. It's just, that comedic timing is incredible, and the way he acts towards them, knowing that his ex-wife used to be a big part of their lives, and now he's kind of like the outsider, is funny. The way he plays it, especially when they go in to do the game night with him, and he's just sitting there, and he's like, you can tell he's content with going on. He's happy that they're here, but at the same time, he plays it off so strange that you can't really tell, is he really happy or is he just always like this? Because he has that the way he talks and the way his expressions are so straight that he never really gives off a lot of emotion at all. Including when the twist at the end, he never gives off any emotion in doing that either. He plays it so straight. It's so funny.
Oh, yeah.
And anybody that loves playing board games or has board game nights with friends or family, they know this is a movie for you. If you have ever done it, this is definitely a movie for you. It takes you on a wild ride, and it ends up exactly where I wanted it to. Like, everything that happened throughout, I was in it from the beginning, and I never let up. This is a movie that I fell in love with the first time I watched it, and I just keep finding new things to love about each time. The quotes are great. The supporting cast is amazing, and I definitely want to see more from, can't think of the names right now, but the directors. Let me get their names real quick. John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein. I've seen John Francis Daly do a couple other things written-wise, and he needs to direct more things because this is so great. And that is my number 5.
Yeah. All right. My number 3 is Widows.
Ooh, okay.
Now, Widows is the latest Steve McQueen movie. It is... again, like, one of the best. I love the screenplay in this, and it is a pretty big cast. You have Viola Davis, Liam Neeson is in this, Michelle Rodriguez, Elizabeth Debicki, and they all give great performances. This is probably the best I've ever seen Michelle Rodriguez. And Viola Davis it's a crime that she isn't getting nominated because she gives, in my opinion, one of the best of the year, especially for leading actresses. Steve McQueen has been becoming one of my favorite directors because of movies like a movie like Hunger, which he has directed, both fantastic, and he again delivers. Also, Colin Farrell's in this and is great. And just all around great performances. But what I love is the action scenes in this and how tense they could get. Especially there's a certain twist that happens, and that's when it gets very, very crazy and interesting, and you're like, I don't know what's going to happen next. And that's what I love about this movie. I can't wait to watch this again. It's one of my favorites of the year. My number 3 is Widows.
And that's definitely a movie I still need to see. So, but I gotta wait till it comes out because it's no longer in the theater. But I am definitely looking forward to seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes on to my number 3, which is my favorite horror movie of the year, Annihilation.
Okay.
Yeah, this, man, when I saw this at the beginning of the year, this was just such an incredible movie. Natalie Portman, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Tessa Thompson, Gina Rodriguez, man, they are so great all together. The chemistry is top notch, and I love how this is one of those horror movies where the atmosphere overtakes the story, and I love it. It's everything in the background you can watch and give new meaning to the world and explores the world even further with the story. And I love that it slowly builds the story of what's going on in the Shimmer and what's happening to them time-wise and to their bodies when you start delving into what exactly is going on with everybody. Oscar Isaac, even though he has a very small role in it, is fantastic as always. But Natalie Portman is definitely the standout role here for me. She is so amazing as the biologist that's going in there trying to find out what happened to Oscar Isaac, what happens to him from the beginning, and why that happened to him. And I love that Jennifer Jason Leigh has that story moment in there, which I won't give away why she's there. And it's just so heartbreaking throughout knowing why she wants to continue with everything going on. And they have some creepy scenes in here when they're in the water and something attacks them in the water when they are by the, what would you call, it's one of the barracks that they're by, and they get attacked through it. And there's a couple of the scenes throughout where monsters are attacking them throughout, but they keep it tonal wise. They keep it very slow burned, where something happens, and then you have them exploring the story, and you have them exploring, letting their characters just grow naturally through dialogue. And I love that about this movie, where it's not just attack after attack or like aliens and monsters just coming at you at all times. No, this movie is a very slow burn movie, and that's why I think it's one of the best of the year. Alex Garland, who's done Ex Machina, he knows what he's doing. He's done Arrival. Every movie he does, he has that slow burn to it, and he's amazing at it. I haven't read the book, which I really do want to read the book, because I heard it's amazing as well. But if you haven't seen it, try to go in as blind as possible, because there's so many amazing parts in this. The story, up until the very end, keeps you guessing. And there is some creepy images in here, especially one that involves a pool that has no water in it. One of the scariest images that you could see walking into it. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, definitely check out Annihilation.
Yeah, definitely a really good movie. And for me, my number 2, I was going back and forth between my number 1 and number 2 on what should be where, but I finally decided, and my number 2 is Beautiful Boy, starring both Steve Carell and Timothy Chalamet. Now, I'm a big fan of Steve Carell. I have been for a while now. I'm a big fan of The Office, and I mean, I love him in things like 40-Year-Old Virgin and Anchorman and a bunch of other things. But Timothy Chalamet, I wasn't the biggest fan of Call Me by Your Name, but I think the one thing that I loved about the movie was his performance. I thought his performance was great. And I think I loved his performance in this even more. Now, this movie is about Timothy Chalamet's character. He's addicted to drugs, and it's more about how the family deals with it more than anything. And what really keeps me invested is the performances and how seeing how the family deals with it, because you really never really see that. You always see how the person who is addicted, how they deal with it, but you never really see how the family deals with it. So I thought it was interesting to see that. But I love the relationship between Timothy Chalamet and Steve Carell. It seemed like, I was actually watching a father and a son dealing with the son's drug addiction, and just the relationship I was invested in. The chemistry was fantastic. Easily one of the most underrated, or it is the most underrated movie of the year for me, because it's kind of divisive, because there's a lot of time jumps. It's a non-linear story, and I really think that didn't work for a lot of people, but it definitely works for me. It's my number two. And I love this movie. It's a movie that I was really looking forward to, and a movie that I think very much exceeded those expectations for me. My number two is Beautiful Boy.
And that's also a movie that I saw the trailer for, and I went, I'm just going to wait till video, because it just does not seem like my type of movie. But again, I get why people love this movie. I do. I can tell by the trailer why you would love it.
Mm-hmm.
But my number two is a movie that is one of those that either people have loved it or they've completely despised it. It is A Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh,
the Netflix
okay.
Coen Brothers movie. Now, this to me was a quintessential Coen Brothers style movie. Even though it's told in different vignettes, 6 different stories, it brings their different styles all together in different stories. Like, you have the first one, which is A Ballad of Buster Scruggs with Tim Blake Nelson, which is by far the funniest story out of all 6, for sure. But that's what it was supposed to be, was that it was supposed to be pure comedy. And I just love the little thing that he has with Clancy Brown, where he takes a table and just makes him shoot himself over and over again. And I love how they connect each story with the book. Every time they go to a new story, they open a new chapter of the book, and it connects to the next story. James Franco in the botched bank robbery is still very funny, but it's a different type of humor than The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, but it's still there. And it's one of my favorite James Franco performances. He's so amazing, and he's so funny. And I love how he's up when he has a rope hanging around his neck, and he turns to the person, he sees the person crying, and he just says, first time. It's just so stupid. And then you move on to the Gold Rush one, where he's digging for gold. And that one, the humor's gone from it. It's more of a dramedy, where it's more connected with his story and why, like, it's more darkish humor, I would say. Because while he keeps having to dig, he digs like 100 holes trying to find gold, and then something ends up happening to him, which I will not give away, but it has little moments where I did not think it was going to go where it went. But then one of the ones that I've heard, which is a favorite, well, a lot of people's favorites, is a Liam Neeson one, where you have the guy with no legs and no arms and just sitting there, and that is tonally a different one from the next one, which is what I love about these stories. But my other one, which is by far the most hated one out of this group that I've seen online, is the one with Zoe Kazan and her journey with her brother across the Old West.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, people said it was too slow. Nothing really happened. But that's what I loved about it, was that it brought like the No Country aspect, No Country for Old Men aspect, serious man aspect to this movie, where it was more slow burned, and you just got to hang out with the characters. And then you have the parts with Native Americans coming to attack them, and the way they deal with that, and it's just a gut-wrenching scene towards the end, what happens to her. But all throughout, every single story connects in a way to show a different part of the Old West, and it expands the Coen Brothers style throughout different stories. And I just fell in love with it when I watched it, and I've rewatched it a couple times now, and each story gets better and better every time. But yeah, that is why my second is Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
All right. Now it's time for my number one, and my number one is a movie that actually completely caught me by surprise. I didn't think I was gonna love it as much as I did, but I saw it and I loved it. And even then, I go, it wasn't my number one when I first saw this, but the more I thought about it, the more I loved it, and eventually became my number one, and that is Green Book.
Ooh.
Okay. Green Book is my number one, and what I love about this movie is both the performances by Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali. I'm a big fan of both of them. Viggo Mortensen, I'm a big fan because of Lord of the Rings, and Mahershala Ali, I've been a huge fan of ever since Moonlight. He was amazing in that, and he's amazing in this. And what I think I love about this movie is how good it made me feel. It's a very feel-good movie. Probably one of the most feel-good movies of the year.
Yeah.
And I love the relationship between both Mahershala Ali and Viggo Mortensen in this movie. And I love how it progresses and it grows. Because, Viggo Mortensen plays Tony Lip, who becomes a driver. He's a tough guy, and he plays a driver who is driving for Mahershala Ali's character, who is a famous musician, and he has to go play down in the South, so he needs someone to kind of protect him, look out for him, and whatnot. And they really don't get along at first, but to see the relationship grow and see how they care for each other, and to see the racism that happened back then, and how Mahershala Ali deals with it, and how Viggo Mortensen deals with it, and to see just how, especially how Mahershala Ali deals with it, because there's a certain scene in The Rain where he goes, "If I'm not black enough, I'm not white enough, then what am I?" And I mean, I really didn't know what that meant when I saw the trailer, but you obviously see what it means, and I love how just it is why he says that, and that is easily the most emotional scene in the movie. They give two of my favorite performances of the year, and it's just a movie that made me feel good, and I loved it, and it completely caught me by surprise.
Yeah, I will say this was definitely my other honorable mention, was Green Book, because Viggo Mortensen, Mahershala Ali were amazing together in this. Viggo Mortensen, he doesn't show up as often as I would like in movies, but when he does, it's always a great time. And then I have my number one, which is really no surprise to anybody that knows me. It was coming from the beginning. It first came out. When I first saw it, I'm like, yep, I don't think anything's overtaken it. It is Ready Player One. Now, this is Spielberg, at his fantasy finest. This is him doing what he does best, which is fantasy, sci-fi, adventure. And what I love most about this movie is the message behind it, which is dealing with obsession, because I connect with Wade and Percival, the same guy, different avatar and real person. I connect with his character dealing with technology. For me, it's movies. For him, it was the virtual reality world of the Oasis. Is that the obsession, what can happen when you get so obsessed with something, you play it every day because you don't want to deal with real life. You want to just stick in this world. And he sticks with the Oasis, which in itself becomes its own world because everyone is a part of it. But I love the fact that they deal with that, is that as an audience, you're looking at it going, this is me when it comes to certain things, like either be it your phone. For me, it's movies. I get lost in movies every day, and I do it to get away from the real world. And it's just so great of performances by Ty Sheridan and Olivia Cooke. And I just love their chemistry together throughout. And the way, I've read the book, and I love the book to death, but I knew from the start that there's no way that you can bring this book to screen the exact way it is, because for the audience, especially at this age, at this time, would not get it at all, because it deals more with old style video games that a lot of the new generation doesn't know. So they had to bring it into the new generation. So they brought in the big race at the beginning. And I love that. I love that that is the first key, is that you got to get through the race. And by doing it is you got to go backwards. It's like a little video game thing. You got to use the cheat. And I love that they're bringing King Kong to take out a lot of people towards the end of the race. And then my favorite, of course, is the Shining moment, because
that's easily one of the best scenes in the whole year.
When you know that, especially the behind the scenes, that how close Spielberg was with Stanley Kubrick, you can tell this is something he really wanted to do, and he pulls it off perfectly. That scene, them first walking into the Overlook Hotel, is so insane because it looks exactly like it looked in the movie. It is so incredible. That entire sequence is amazing. And then having the dance, they change it to the dance sequence to where You got to dance with me to get the key. And going all to the third one where they bring it back to the book, which is the game mode adventure, and them having to play the game to get the key, to get the last key, to become. And one of my favorite supporting casts in this is Simon Pegg.
Oh yeah,
he's just so funny in it as first as the curator of the library, and then you find out who he really is towards the end. But him as curator of the library is so funny when he deals with Wade, especially when and I love that they brought in the whole library aspect where he goes in and you can rewatch anything you want. That'd be amazing. Just go in there, you can watch any movie, any TV show, any past memory of certain things that are logged in the library. You can rewatch it all. You can rewind it. You can turn the camera to turn it a certain way if you want. I just love the whole aspect of this. And I know it's got people have had a lot of problems with the ending of it, which is basically nothing really changes. He just keeps it for 2 days where you can't go into the Oasis, but other than that, he keeps it open. But that's not the point. When you're dealing with obsession, or even you can call it an addiction to technology, most people can't deal with cold turkey. You can't just turn it off. You can't just turn the game off because that will screw with people's mind. So I like the way they did it where it goes, I'm going to turn it off for 2 days. And a lot of people are saying, well, that just that doesn't make any sense because he's still playing it. So it's not like anything's changed. But how do you know that? What I look at it from that ending is they're saying that, especially with the ending that they show of him and Olivia Cook as their real selves, not as their avatars sitting there together, is that even though he took it off for 2 days, he doesn't play it every day. He still doesn't play it every day. He goes back to real life because he actually has a real life that he enjoys, that he cares about, because he's gotten real friends off this game that know each other in real life now. He's gotten Olivia Cook's character. And this movie had a couple emotional scenes that I loved in it. And I just love the whole message behind it, which is your obsession can take you so far, but at the end of the day, you got to have real life. You got to deal with your real life to move forward with your life. It was definitely my favorite of the year. Spielberg has come back from doing movies that I still love, but these are the type of movies that I want him to start doing again, the fantasy epics. But yeah, that is my number one, Ready Player One.
Yeah, no, definitely could see why you would like it. And definitely not surprised because you've just been talking about it ever since you saw it. And before that. But that's it. That's our top 10 list. Thank you guys for watching. Before I end it, would you like to plug anything, say anything, do anything?
There's something called the Top 100 at Confidential Cinema. I don't think it'll ever come out, but if it does, check it out. It'll be there, maybe not. But yeah, other than that, you can catch me on the other programs like Multiplex and Full Metal doing trivia. About it.
Yeah, no, and you can see me here, obviously. But thank you guys for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, do all that kind of fun stuff. And until next time, guys, have a nice day.